embody your spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit, number 347 in your gray hymnal, and the lyrics are on the screen.
Appear all the same. So there are still people coming in. If you would make space for them. And greeters, if you can hold the doors closed for the moment. Can you wait, Shay, for a moment? Consider this an invitation to you.
Yes, you, with all your happiness and your burdens, your hopes and regrets.
An invitation if you feel good today, and an invitation if you do not, if you are aching. And there are so many ways to ache.
Maybe your heart is heavy or hardened.
Maybe it's troubled and peace can take up residence only in a small corner, only on the edge with all that is going on in the world and in your life. Ni modo, it doesn't matter.
May the light of this chalice this morning remind you that all that you need for a deep and comforting peace to grow lies within you. Once it is in your heart, let it spread out into your life. Let it pour from your life out into the world.
And once it is in the world, let it shine upon all beings. Good morning and welcome. Good morning. And welcome to the Edo River Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, or ERUUF, as we like to say. I'm Reverend Jacqueline Brett. I'm the lead minister here, and whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever your race, your gender identities, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey or in your search for truth, meaning, or liberation, we invite you and welcome you here in beloved community. And if you are visiting with us today, maybe for the first or perhaps even the second time, I invite you to rise in body or spirit so that we might give you an ERUUF welcome. Hello to all of you. Were you waving at the camera? Oh, I thought you were waving at the camera, but you can wave at the camera. I invite those of you who are watching the live stream, and if you have a chat box available to you, to write your name there, and someone will welcome you there as well. So I thank all of you for choosing to spend your Sunday morning here with us. And on subsequent Sundays, because we do hope you'll return again, at 10 a.m., right before this service, we have a class called Inquirers for visitors and newcomers. And everyone is invited to attend that class where you'll learn about us, and you can also share some things about yourself as you might wish. That class takes place right next door in the building next door. You'll see a sandwich board with the information on it, and you just go right into that room where you can participate in the Inquirers class. And for those of you who might have children with you, your children are welcome to join our children in their first day of the new semester of religious exploration classes. Just follow the other children and parents out right after the time for all ages, and someone will tell you what to do. So I wanted to let you all know that next week, as some of you might already know, is our Connections Fair. The Connections Fair is amazing. It is fabulous. It is the time when you get to learn about all the many, many things that are going on here. And it takes place right outside on the plaza. We have a lot of fun. We have food trucks. Local pops will be here. There will be games. And we want you all to come so that you can just learn more about who we are and how we do what we do, because it's very deceptive when you're only sitting here on Sunday morning. You'll get to find out a lot about our congregation next week. Also happening next week, for those of you who who are members here, we are the Reverend Deborah Kerr is the worship leader next week, and we will be recognizing her in this service as the minister, our new minister emerita. And so she will be here, and we hope you'll be here too, so we can give her a good recognition and let her know how much we care about her and love her. And there's also cake afterwards, if that's an inducement for you. Along with Loco Pops and food trucks, there's cake too. So for the Connections Fair, if any of you has a tent or a covering that you can allow us to borrow for next Sunday, we would really appreciate that. You can let Michael Gilbert Singletary, our Director of Membership Development, to know this, and they will be so happy to have yet another tent or covering, because just to keep everyone out of the sun next week. So we hope some of you might be able to loan us something that we might use. So now would be a great time to turn off or down any devices you might have on your person. Any noise-making devices. So one of the things that we always recognize here at ERUUF is when one of our beloveds dies and makes their transition from this life. And we've had that happen this past week. On Thursday morning, Susan Hollister died. And so one of our traditions here is to give a rose of remembrance. We give roses here a lot. We give roses to our children. When we dedicate them, we remove the thorns and give them a rose. We give roses to our new members. We give roses to our high school students when they are bridging from this place out into the world, and we give that one full of thorns, representing that we have prepared them and equipped them for the world beyond. And when one of our beloveds dies, we light a candle symbolizing the light of their life and what that light has meant for us in this community. And then we float the petals of a rose on the waters of life. And we do that now. For Susan Hollister, who was certainly beloved here, I was amazed to realize that Susan has only been a member of this congregation for 13 years. It felt like she had been here for so much longer because she was so pivotal in this place. She had a kind, gentle way about her, and she was instrumental in really fortifying our small group ministries, our covenant groups, and chalice circles, as some of you might know them. And Susan not only did that here, but she did it nationally. She was a writer of curricula. She went to other congregations and got their small group ministries started. And she was just simply a loving presence here at ERUUF. And so I invite us all to take a moment of silence as we hold Susan in our heart, as well as the members of the Hollister family. Spirit of life and spirit of love that holds us and that weaves its way throughout us, we give our gratitude for Susan's presence among us, what she has meant to us collectively as well as to us individually. We also wish comfort and peace, and that all the needs are given to the members of the Hollister family, especially Susan's husband, Alan Hollister, and her children, Nato and Rebecca. We pray that they receive peace, that they receive comfort, and that they receive our love. May it be so. Amen and Ashe. So the first Sunday of our months, of each of our months, and this is actually the second Sunday, but last Sunday was Labor Day, so many of you were not here that we decided to hold this for today. It is Justice Sunday, and here to speak about our Justice Action Group, the Durham CAN core team and action group, is Lynn Howard Vaughn, the co-leader of that action group.
Morning. My name is Lynn Howard Vaughn, as she stated, and my wife and I, Jay Vaughn, co-chair our Durham CAN core team and our action group here at ERUUF. CAN being communities and neighborhoods. I know a lot of people wonder what the CAN stands for behind Durham, but that's what it stands for. Durham CAN, though, is an organization. It consists of congregations, associations, schools, both public and private, nonprofits, community health centers, and neighborhood organizations throughout Durham. We share the same concern, which is a tradition of faith and democracy. Over 20 years now, ERUUF has been one of the founding members of Durham CAN, and we continue to be leaders in this organization ever since. Durham CAN developed the skills and capacities of leaders like ourselves. I think Durham CAN helped me to be the leader that I am today. It also provided the avenue for us to be change agents in the public process by creating a vehicle for democracy. We have to have this vehicle in order to be a powerful voice in the community, a voice that helps make decisions for lives instead of allowing just a few people to decide how our lives should be and what we should do. ERUUF, as a member institution of CAN, participate in building relationships of trust among people and institutions across Durham County, intentionally crossing boundaries of economics, race, sexual identity, gender, geography that divide us. And to be honest with you, intentionally, we put these groups together because they would never get together themselves because they're too far separated by economics, race, gender, or sexual orientation. And by putting them together, we also teach them how to collaborate successfully, which is something that many groups shun from because they don't know how to collaborate with each other. While not a religious organization, CAN's agenda is faith-informed and it's a democratic values. Okay, CAN is often called upon to support congregations who seek to address problems that they may be having within their congregation, within their families, within their communities. And CAN stands up to do that. CAN and all of its organizations, we are issue-driven, we are politically, but we are nonpartisan. In other words, we do not endorse any candidate or party or any party for elected office, but we do put forth an issue agenda as a platform for constructive change. Most recently, CAN recentered itself and created research action teams. These action teams focus on the most pressing issues among our Durham communities. And to make sure these are the most pressing issues, we actually did a poll among the different congregations to see what are your most vital concerns in the communities. We came up with 4 different areas of concerns, and they were public transportation, affordable housing, gun violence, and poverty. And poverty steams across many areas: homelessness, hunger. You can just imagine what poverty consists of. And so as an organization, Durham CAN has put forth these action teams. So when we meet now, we don't just meet to, I know I met with one person this morning that says, you guys, when you meet, you don't do anything. Well, we changed that. So when we meet, our 4 groups meet together, and you can become a part of one of those action teams. Okay, we, as one of the co-chairs for Durham Can, I am strongly encouraging each of you to go out into the fellowship hall, to look at the table that we have there, and decide which group do you think you could actually become a part of, because we really need your support, we need your voice, and there are some strong leaders in ERUUF, and that's the wonderful part of being a part of this congregation. I love ERUUF, I love the vibrant community that we have, and we will also be there for the Connection Fair next week, but I encourage you to become a part of Durham Can, to help us fight for some of the wrongs and some of the indifferences that we have in our community, to make Durham a better place for each of us. Thank you so much.
Now I invite our smallest and our mediumest and our tallest folks on down. Oh my gosh, there's a couple brave people already on their way down for our Time for All Ages. Some of our tallest folks too, I see. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. If you want to scoot in, you can, but you can stay further out too. Just know if we get a lot of people, we gotta scoot in or scoot over. And today, our Time for All Ages is a book called I Am You, a book about Ubuntu. Now, am I you, like literally? Like if I showed up to school as you, do you think somebody would notice? Would somebody notice that? Yeah, I think they'd probably be like, something seems strange here. You seem a bit different in some ways. Oh, very cute. So if we go to this first page, though, it says Ubuntu means I am because you are. Now, kind of what this means is like, we might be different in some ways, but we are all connected. We're all connected to each other. So like, in a way, what I do to you, I kind of do to myself, because we're all connected as people in this world. And this is a concept of shared humanity and compassion and oneness. It's part of many African cultures, especially in South Africa, where this book was first published. So here's our Time for All Ages today. When I look into your eyes, I see myself. I am you. Oh, the picture turns. When I look into your eyes, I see your heart. I embrace you. This young person is embracing a what? A tree, yes. When I look into your eyes, I see your beauty. I love you. And because I love you, I love myself too. Is it good to love other people? Yeah. And like there's the romantic love, but there's also the being a I see. There's like the friend love too, and like the just caring about people love. And is it good to love yourself? Yeah, that's good too. When I smile as our eyes meet, when I hug you as I say hello, that's kind of a big hug there. A lot of people in that hug. When I share what little I have with you, such as this very, very long scarf, which of course I'm a fan of. And when I walk home with you after school, I love you and I love myself too. When I listen as you tell me your stories, when I dance as I see you dance, that's a little wiggle dance, it's a little hard to dance in a stool. When I laugh as I hear you laugh, when I hold your hands as you cry, are both of those things important, laughing and crying? Yeah. Sometimes it's... And sometimes people cry when they're happy. That is also very accurate. I love you, and I love myself too. We may look different, you and I, sound different. And here you see a lot of people speaking different languages. Act different. Maybe eat different food. Gosh, all those food trucks are making me hungry. And live in different places. But our hearts beat the same. I am you. Look at those tin can walkie-talkies. To hurt you is to hurt myself. To tease you is to tease myself. Do you think this goes just for our friends? No, sometimes like when we hurt people who we're mad at, when we tease people that we're mad at, it's still not always the best thing, even if we're mad at them. Like, it's okay to be mad at somebody. That's true. It's just true. Sometimes it happens. To ignore you is to ignore myself. I am you. To care for you is to care for myself. To be gentle with you is to be gentle with myself. Now, this kiddo is being gentle with a baby. Do you think this is only to be gentle with babies, or is it to be gentle with adults too? Both? Yeah. What do you think, adults? Yeah. It's important to be gentle with babies, but also with adults. To be kind to you is to be kind to myself. I am you, and you are me. I am because we are one. And oh my gosh, that looks like a very fun treehouse in which to be one. And with that, you are about to accept an invitation to continue religious exploration today in the Care Building. I'm very excited. I hope you're very excited too. You too? Excellent. And so, with that, we send you to continue your religious exploration.
And greet your neighbor, especially those neighbors you haven't met yet. As you return to a sitting space from a joyous and deepening time of greeting one another, because that is a true thing. It's an important part of what we do. I want to invite you into a space of prayer and meditation and deepening.
So let your body become comfortable as it can be where it is. Maybe your feet are on the floor, maybe they're reaching toward the floor. If you are comfortable letting your eyes close or lose focus, you may do that. Join us for this moment of deepening. Spirit of life, source of love, we gather here today in a space and spirit of welcome. A space that hopes to stretch that welcome to those who could be here. And we are folks who also hold hope that our world can continue to be more and more welcoming to all who are in it. In that holding of welcome, take a moment now to silently reflect on a moment someone's actions made you feel welcomed into this space. And in our holding of a hopeful welcome and invitation, we too realize that welcome may sometimes be simple and is sometimes more complex. Sometimes we know what the invitation is and must be, and sometimes we are still learning how invitation may be given or lived into. So in this silent, reflective moment, reflect on the places where you might know how to give a welcoming invitation, and maybe the spaces where you're unsure of how to give a welcoming invitation. Holding yourself in grace. May we hold ourselves in community in the places where we feel that welcome and know how to extend it, and in the places in which we are still growing in our ability to present invitation. Also, each week we hold the joys and concerns of this community together, and we invite you to share those joys and concerns with us, both through this Joys and Concerns book that is right outside the sanctuary before service, and through email at care@eruf.org. This week, we hold that there are many joys and celebrations that exist in the world, and we want to lift up that while they may not be spoken of, the importance of making space for the richness of joy and excitement and jubilation is important to living full lives. And we also hold the concerns of this community, both locally and more broadly today. Among those concerns we hold this week's shooting victims and families at Appalachia High School in Georgia. We hold the victims of this shooting and all victims of gun violence and their families. as they encounter its painful effects. We hold Alan Hollister and the Hollister family as they grieve the death of Susan Hollister, who passed away on Thursday morning, September 5th. We hold Shannon McManus as she is currently in a battle with cancer. She says it is going quite well at this time, and also, it is still a battle with cancer. And we hold David Tucker and his family as they grieve the death of his mother, Rose Lee Brake Tucker, on Thursday, September 5th, at the age of 94. Among all of these concerns, we also send out peacefulness to all those experiencing suffering. Whether their concerns have been expressed or they are held silently in the care of this community. In the spirit of all that is, amen and blessed be.
Our meditation hymn today is number 1013 in the Teal hymnal, Open My Heart, and the words will be on the screen. We're going to sing it in a round, so we'll sing it through once together in unison, and then we'll have this section begin, and then our middle section follow, and then this section will follow that. Open my heart to
This week, as I sat at my computer to write a reflection about invitation and radical welcome, I was distracted by my email, which almost always happens. In the top of that email was a minister's letter from my former congregation, which announced a significant change in their service they're having today, a service of homecoming. And the change was that the necrology was removed. If you're not familiar with a necrology, it is a reading of a list of the deceased. In my former church in Westport, the ritualized service welcoming the congregation back in the fall included a reading aloud all the names of church members who had passed. Each September during that homecoming service, I was struck by the incongruence of welcoming people with a list of those no longer there. Yet, as I sat there, I had a sense of oneness in the congregation because what was produced was a recognition of the holiness of the humanity of those absent. I was so concerned that something was being lost that I sent this minister a mini reflection about what this necrology meant to me. I recalled my first homecoming. When I sat there, none of the names meant anything to me. But I could sense the reverence as a congregation honored those whose shoulders they stood upon, as they honored the ancestors. I recalled my last homecoming service, when far too many of the names were now people from my family of choice, my congregation. And though it was a discordant welcome, I proposed to this minister that the necrology not be abandoned, but instead be made part of another service. I ended my email to him with the observation, radical welcome should say to newcomers, we want you here journeying with us together at such a deep level that the passing of one of us has a spiritual impact on all of us. In saying that, I was looking at radical welcoming backwards from the end of the process to discern what it should be at the beginning. Simply put, radical welcoming should communicate that we are inviting inquirers into our family with all of the emotional entanglements that implies. Earlier this week, I went back and dug up my Spiritual Odyssey presentation that I made here at the summer of 2018. In it, I acknowledged the people who had welcomed Lenore and I to this ERUUF 3 years earlier. Due to their radical welcoming of both of us, they became family to us and we to them. And Susan Hollister was very much on my heart this week. Condolences go out to Alan and to the Hollister family. Susan was the first person that we met when we stepped onto the ERUUF campus 9 years ago. What she did for us was an example that radical welcoming does not mean extraordinary welcoming. She greeted us in a way that made us feel welcome, that made me feel that she had an emotional stake in our well-being, and that she wanted us not here just that one day, but as an integral member of the congregation going forward. And it was not the words that she said, but it's the way she engaged with us that made her welcome radical. And now her passing has had a significant impact on all of us. One of the first couples that we met that first Sunday was Doug and Daphne Rhodes. Over the years, I've often told the story of Doug and Daphne's radical welcoming of us. We were here in North Carolina to discern if we wanted to relocate here from Connecticut. Our critical issue was identifying a neighborhood where we could make our new home. Doug and Daphne invited us to breakfast. Some of you will remember Daphne's breakfast as being the most sought-after items at the ERUUF auctions. After breakfast, they spent hours driving us through the various Fearington neighborhoods, explaining the feel of each and why we might want to live there with them. That was a radical welcome that said to us, we want you to be our neighbors as well as our fellow congregants. So in closing, my question to each of you is, what have you done to welcome newcomers such that you will be remembered 10 years from now? People arrive on this campus guarding their vulnerability in a cloak of doubt, questioning whether they belong here. They need to be welcomed in a way that says to them, we want them to be our friends, our spiritual neighbors, and eventually our family. We're asking for a commitment from them that goes beyond the superficial, beyond the immediate, to something which is transformative. That is a big ask, but a radical welcome does not need to be extraordinary. To welcome you, my body language, if not my words, should simply communicate, your presence is important to me. So I hope you all feel that your presence is important to me, because it is. Thank you.
Catherine, there's some spaces right down here. Okay. So I hope you have your paper ready, because I got some things to say. So last night I received a message from a colleague who was visiting our area this weekend who let me know that while he was here, he'd invited someone to attend ERUUF today. So I'm not sure if that person came or not, but by the time I read his message, he had already returned to his home in Georgia. We are not proselytizers here. We do not induce people to come to ERUUF, nor do we believe that anything terrible will happen to you, to America, or the world if you are not Unitarian Universalist. We simply extend to folks the joy and the acceptance to be had here, the intentional co-creation of beloved community centered in the transformative power of love expressed through values of justice, equity, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity toward all beings, human and otherwise, as well as the earth. And all this said, an invitation is not quite the same as a welcome, though the two are interrelated. Welcome is the experience people have or don't have when they come through our doors on a day like today, or during an event such as the one that was held here last night when there were about 150 people here, or in the other programs and classes we collectively offer here, or when they come through the doors of our office, or even as people connect with us online. We extend our invitations directly or indirectly, but beyond our invitations, it is also important to engage in the practice of extending and inviting welcome. It seems to make sense, right? But I think we sometimes forget this, which means we are forgetting, or perhaps we are unaware that we are missing the opportunity to embody our values, not in some abstract intellectual way, which is actually not embodiment, but as a heart-centered practice in this very moment. It is what Maya Angelou meant when she said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you've done, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that is what Michael was talking about a moment ago. Have any of you ever been invited somewhere and you arrive and the vibe is really off? Have you? Raise your hand if you have. Yes. Somehow you feel as if the event you were excited about attending or the people you were really eager to see aren't all that welcoming. Maybe they're distracted or have other things going on. Whatever the reason, despite what might have been a beautiful or appealing invitation, you simply don't feel welcomed when you arrive. Now, this can be a challenging thing in a place like this when so many of our people of all ages are going to and fro and so much is going on. But I will not excuse that because it certainly is possible. First of all, it's important for us all to understand that the practice of a welcome beyond an invitation is not about the lingo we use, such as radical welcome or drawing our circle wide, without stopping to understand, as Michael has, what does all that really mean anyway? And what are we actually engaged in? In her book, Radical Welcome, Episcopal priest Stephanie Spellers writes, radical welcome is the spiritual practice of embracing and being changed by the gifts, presence, voices, and power of the other. The people systematically cast out of or marginalized within a church, a denomination, or society itself. And regardless of your demographic profile, you still have a margin, a disempowered other who is in your midst or just outside your door. In fact, you may be the other in some places. I am often the other in many places. Stephanie goes on to say radical welcome is concerned with the transformation and opening of individual hearts, congregations, and systems so that the other might find in your community a warm place and a mutual embrace, and so that you are finally free to embrace and be transformed by authentic relationship with someone on the margins. For many of us in this room right now, our very spiritual survival and nurture of the well-being of our hearts have relied upon our courageous acts of locating communities that were willing to draw their circles wide as they were willing to take on the engagement in such a practice of radical welcome. This is what we're talking about here. It is not mere lingo or jargon. Those of us who have been coming to ERUUF for even a short while are often happy to be here in what has become a familiar place with familiar faces, because whether we are joyous or heartbroken, we know there is something to be found here, that someone will see us, whether we wish to celebrate or are seeking solace. But it is in this that we can sometimes also forget to welcome the stranger. Or we might welcome the stranger who appears or seems to be like one of us, yet ignore or shun the stranger who does not, or who makes us feel uncomfortable because of their ways of being. And the question I invite each of us to ask ourselves in those moments is whether we are about the work of practice that it takes for each one of us to deliberately and intentionally draw our circle wide in radical welcome, or do we simply prefer to sit in the comfort of the status quo in which we and our community, let alone the world itself, remains as it is and is never transformed? Do y'all hear me? Yes. Can I get an amen? Come on now. All right. Well, whatever. We are in fellowship together. And this is what I want to talk with you about for a few minutes, because I got some things to say. Several years ago, when I was a student minister here, my portfolio included the role of director of membership. And what I learned from my mentor, Casey Zucchino, and David, I see you, but I don't see Casey. I'm talking about her today. Casey, who I have dubbed the grandmother of all of us who were, are now, or will be directors of membership development at ERUUF, had to first and foremost tell me that radical welcome was about welcoming people, not through saying some words at the start of the service, but through engaging with people. She took me to the doorway of the fellowship hall during what we called coffee hour back then, and she told me that what you do is you look around the room and find the people who are standing alone, whether it's an individual or a couple, and you make a point of going over and speaking to them, finding out who they are and what brought them here. And then you take it a step further by not leaving them hanging as you rush off to speak to somebody else, but you invite them to come with you, and you introduce them to others, and each of you include them in your conversation. And I did this, and it worked. And once I saw that people were engaged with others, I often backed away from that conversation and found the next person standing alone, and I did it all over again, because it was my job after all. But an inviting welcome is also about connecting people. That is what I learned most of all. It is not just talking to people, it's connecting them. And I thank Casey for that, and please let her know that, David. So here's the thing. I know everyone is eager to fellowship during fellowship hour. You want to connect with your friends. That is important. And it's also important that we do not miss the opportunity to expand or draw our small circles of fellowship a little bit wider by welcoming someone who showed up here on Sunday morning, most often not knowing anyone. And for some people, that very act is an act of courage. And it's also important for us to remember that this is not about surfacey small talk. A few weeks ago, Julie Edmonds came over to introduce me to someone she'd been speaking with. And I want to let y'all know that I love when you all do this, because it says to me that our practice of co-creating a welcoming space is actually working and being embodied by you. So I don't recall all the details of the conversation with the person Julie introduced me to, but I realized that some of the person's questions could be answered with some information from our visitor hosts. And because I needed to speak with someone else who was waiting, I asked Julie if she would accompany the person to get what they needed. And Julie did something quite simple and quite lovely that I have not forgotten. She looked at the person and said, "I would love to walk with you to get what you need." It was so simple and yet so warm and so specific. Engaging in a radical welcome is not always as comfortable as what I just described, because many come to our door seeking acceptance and safety that they have not found elsewhere. And the reality is that we might feel uncomfortable around some of the people who do. In these situations, we can find ourselves blaming the person who is the source of our discomfort, rather than taking responsibility for our feelings and addressing what is within us, rather than expecting that all will be well when that which is outside of us changes. Well, while both might need to be addressed, it is true that nothing out there or over there will shift until we change or shift right in here. When we believe that all will be well, only when that which is outside of us changes, we are in danger of being steeped in our own righteousness. The practice of an inviting welcome is about our values, the first being that of interdependence. As Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. Do you hear me? All right. It is the profound South African philosophy of Ubuntu that we saw demonstrated in today's story. That I am because you are, and you are because I am. We are because I am, and I am because we are. This philosophy is a source of my daily meditations. It grounds and centers me and also humbles me as I grasp on a daily basis that we are co-creating our existence together, which is both wonderful and frightening, all at the same time. It gives us much to consider. The practice of an inviting welcome is about pluralism, not simply in our religious beliefs, but we also celebrate our diversity in culture and experiences. And in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, we covenant, agree to learn from one another. and we embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. The Buddhist priest Zenju Earthling Manuel writes, "When I grew strong enough with all that I suffered, I came to recognize that to walk the paths of compassion and wisdom is to carry no harmful distinctions within our personal lives or between ourselves and others. Distinctions exist, and there are times when discrimination is needed, but need we make harmful distinctions? Harmful distinctions are what render other living beings expendable in our minds. As I experienced being disregarded," she writes, "I learned to disregard others. The experience grew into a symbiotic cycle of disrespect and dehumanization. We learn to pass our suffering on to others. Therein lies our work. Therein lies our need for practice." What if we instead wondered, if the person who causes me discomfort is a mirror being held up to me, what are they showing me about myself? And as I am compassionate with myself, and I see this, or want others to be compassionate with me, how might I extend compassion to the source of my discomfort? Of course, if it is safe to do so, because sometimes it is not. And while there might certainly be issues that need to be addressed, how might I address them with compassion, which is not synonymous with weakness? In this community, how might my very act of welcome be an act of justice, especially as I encounter someone who might face a great deal of injustice in the world beyond these walls? And while our intention is to offer a radical and inviting welcome as a community, which is also not synonymous with any and everything goes, those of us who are members and friends here understand that we are on this journey together in covenantal agreement about how we will be together, how we will travel together, which is sometimes not readily known to others. How might we, as an act of compassionate welcome, inform someone who does not know about our agreements and covenants and unspoken understandings about what these are? Could this also be an act of equity and even generosity in giving someone what they need in understanding, instead of holding a righteous belief about what we believe they should already know? Have we not ever shown up in a place and made a mistake, perhaps even an egregious one, because we did not know what was generally expected? So the last thing I'm going to say about the practice of an inviting welcome might seem contradictory to everything else I've just said, which is this, and this is really important, is that we must also be discerning as we welcome. The heart of our discernment is in what it means to hold love at the center of our actions. A love that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wonderfully described as power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. It is with this in mind that in coming weeks, you will notice new signs around our campus That is before all the signs that will be placed by those running for office in the coming election, which you'll see plenty of since we are an early voting site. But in holding love at the center, one of the things we've discerned is that weapons have no place on our campus. But it was brought to our attention that unless we have signs indicating this in an open carry state, such as our own, individuals can show up here with weapons either hidden or openly displayed, and we could take no legal action. But we can, if we have signs that say no guns or weapons are permitted on this property or in our buildings. And so some things are simply unwelcomed here. And this is one of them. And so as I close, I must say how much I loved your stories, Michael, about being welcomed here by not only one person, but by more than one person, and just how specific and rich those welcomes were. And I appreciate Michael's challenge to each of us to be so intentional about welcoming someone else that they'll remember it 10 years from now. Do you have a memory like that? I certainly do. Shirley Collins, who died this past spring, was the first person to welcome me here 12 years ago. And she continued to extend that welcome to me many times after that, and I never forgot it. And even when she was no longer able to be here, I never forgot her. If you have such a story, share with someone how you've been given an inviting welcome. And by all means, let us not forget to extend such a welcome to someone we do not know here today. At the end of this morning's 9 o'clock service, a gentleman came to me and said, "I'm so glad you preached this. I came for 4 times and no one said a word to me, and I was about to not come again, but I decided to try anyway." And I said, "Please come, go in that fellowship hall, get some coffee, and tell me if no one talks to you." He didn't come back. So let us make this so, my friends. I know we can do this. I know we can engage in this practice. I know it's in our heart to be this. So let's make it so. Amen, ashe, and blessed be. Talk so much, my mouth is dry. Were you all gonna go that row right there? You can go, just go join them. So it takes a lot to weave the fabric of beloved community here. It takes so much. It takes our time, it takes our talent, our imagination, our hearts to welcome, our hearts to be together, and of course it takes our treasure. And so as the greeters come forward with the collection pouches, if you have nothing to place inside of them, feel free to point your device at the QR code on the screen, or you can remove a card from the pew rack where you will also find a QR code. Point your device and it will lead you to our giving portal where you may give there. And so now we will have the offertory by our beloved community chorus.
Keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide Gotta keep your heart wide open. Ways want to push you around. Ways want to push you around. Gotta keep your heart wide open. Your faith brings you back to solid ground. Brings me back to solid ground. Gotta keep your heart wide open. Away, push you around. Push me around. Gotta keep your heart wide open. Till your faith brings you back solid ground. Gotta keep your heart open. 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 Keep your heart around. Keep your heart open. 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 Back your heart solid ground. Faith brings me back to solid ground.
We give thanks for all the gifts of beloved community. Go ahead. It is a privilege to be in a community like this. And so we express our gratitude and give thanks for all that we co-create together and bring together in beloved community. Wendy?
Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing Come Sing a Song With Me, number 346 in the gray hymnal, and the words are on the screen. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope
closing words today are called a theology of welcome by colleague Reverend Dr. David Breeden. And he writes, let's be the welcome we crave, open hearts and arms outstretched. Let's embody radical welcome, unquestioning love. Let's be the welcome we crave, deeply hearing voices and hearts. Let's be the welcome we crave, enriching, understanding. Let us embody the community we crave. Let us make it so, my friends. Go in love and go in peace. Amen and Ashe.